Welcome back, everyone. My name is Timothy Fairmatthews, and you are listening to the Round Pegs Square Holes podcast, exclusively heard here first, live in the FTEN X Academy. Today, we have Samir Geepee joining us, and he will be giving value and insights around his topic, which is called Questions Are the Answers. So, Samir is a trained practitioner of NLP coaching methods, which is Neuro-Linguistic Programming. I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot about that later. Samir has extensive experience in applying his unique style of coaching with change makers and leaders who aspire to have more and be more in their lives, at the same time making a significant impact on their work. He is a founder and creator of The Awesome Walkers, a platform created to inspire and motivate through the art of deep conversations. He is also the host of Turning Point, an online initiative where, through the art of asking deep questions, he allows the participants to find their own answers, which I'm sure this talk is completely centered around. So guys, we'll be diving really deep into that today, which I'm really looking forward to. Over the years, Samir has brought together people from different spheres of life to have engaging conversations, as well as the exchange of knowledge and ideas. Samir excels in quick thinking, free format conversation, and inspiring talk. So no doubt we'll have one of those today. Samir, how are you? It's amazing to have you with us on the community. Have you had a good day so far?
Fantastic, actually spectacular. Thank you so much, Tim, for having me over. A real pleasure to be on with you over here.
No worries. It's amazing to have you with us. Thank you so much. So everyone, just to let you know, Samir is also a member. So anyone who has any extra questions today, just feel free to tag him in later if you're watching this not live. But guys, this is live. We have Samir with us. And if you've got any questions throughout the talk, please put them in the comment box because we can go to them towards the end of the chat. So Samir, tell us a little. I mean, I've given you an overview anyway, an introduction to who you are. But tell us a little bit more about your journey. I'd love to know why you do what you do. So give us the holistic overview of who Samir is.
Well, that's a deep question. Why I do what I do? So I've been through different career paths, and I've tried and attempted so many different jobs and careers and everything, including living in China and having my own business over there for 8 years. I had this epiphany moment in my life when I was doing this NLP training, and it was the third day, I think, of the program. And they had just told us a modality and asked us to practice it with somebody else. So I was sitting next to the guy who was sitting and learning just like me. And I practiced the modality, and he had a breakthrough in his life. I mean, there was something that was stopping him all through his childhood and his adult life. He was afraid of dark spaces. He wouldn't go into theaters. He wouldn't sit in any space that was confined like this. And in that practice session, he had a breakthrough. And I realized at that moment, I didn't need a certificate. I was born to do this. This is what I have been training and living all my life. This is me. And I don't need anyone else to tell me that this is my path moving forward. And that moment was precious for me,
Wow. How long ago was that?
That was in 2016.
2016, okay. So it's quite recent, actually. So what were you doing before 2016?
Right before 2016, I was selling paratha and karekcha in Qatar for a year.
Okay.
And, I was with a company who wanted to take the brand global, and that was what I was part of that company. And the leadership and the company and everything, selling tea, I realized was not my cup of tea. I didn't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. It was a nice experiment. It was something that I enjoyed doing it for the time that I was there. And before that, I was in China, like I said, where I was into procurement. Before that, I was into project management of a real estate company. And when I was being hired for that company, that was back in 2005, what happened was, so my basic qualifications, I'm a civil engineer by degree, not by intelligence, all right? By
same as me. Technically, I'm an engineer. So I studied that. I didn't study anything to do with production. It's quite funny.
Yeah. So what happened was they were recruiting me for this company to head this big property building company. And I asked them, why are you hiring me for this? And this is way back in 2005.
Mm.
Normally, when you get interviewed, you're like, wow, I got a job. I'm excited. I'm like, no, don't give me the job. Why are you giving me the job? Rationalize with me, because for the last 5, 6 years, I have not been doing civil engineering. So what they told me was very profound. They said, Sanjeev, we are not hiring you for your civil engineering skills. We're hiring you for your people skills.
Okay.
And, and those small moments and small incidents actually tried everything for me. And it just made me realize how much I am a people person, how much I am about transformation, how much I am about making people be their best version. So even if it is a taxi driver, I'm sitting in a cab and I'm going across, I would make sure that I leave him happier than when I stepped into the taxi.
That's an amazing way to live. I mean, you always use the word awesome's in almost every single product you have, isn't it? Be more awesome, which is great. So yeah, it's a really nice, humble way to live. I bet you get a lot of satisfaction from doing what you do.
Absolutely.
So how many lives have you changed or like kind of impacted over the years?
I've not counted, really. I wouldn't know. Right? I really wouldn't know. How would I? I mean, people would come in and tell me, but I'm not in the business of counting how many lives have I actually changed, because change means I've lived and seen those changes. So I could throw a number like 100, 1,000, or any of those numbers for the amount of people who have come in and attended Awesome Walkers, or who regularly attend Turning Point. All those lives are actually being impacted.
Yeah.
If I'm changing one life, even if I'm changing one life, and if that is impacting many, I'm happy.
No, that's true. That's amazing. Well, I mean, you talked. I mean, considering you only been doing this in 2016, it sounds like you've achieved an awful lot. I'm actually surprised you've been doing this since 2016. I thought it was a lot. You were a lot longer doing this. And I guess, I mean, is there any advice you can give in terms of, because you found your calling, I guess, in later life, and I do meet a lot of people that kind of almost are in the, especially now, because people are almost like rethinking what they're doing in terms of their career. Is there any advice? Can you give any advice on how people can find, their calling? Because you said this moment in 2016 was just, you knew this is what you were here to do. How do you find that?
So the thing is like this. So there is this quote, and then this is a quote that I often repeat, and I remind myself, and which I have reminded myself for the longest period of time in my life, ever since I heard it for the first time. It was this: find a job you love to do, and you'll never have to work one day in your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Find a job you love to do, and you'll never have to work one day in your life. This is something that I heard back in college. And ever since that, I would step into a job choosing, am I feeling excited trying this out? And if the answer is yes, then I go into it. If the answer is no, I walk away from it. And I be in that profession for as long as it gives me joy and excitement. And the moment I realize that there is nothing more for me to take from this experience, I move on to try different things.
Is that where people get tripped up, do you think?
Pardon?
Is that where you think people get tripped up? Where they like maybe don't decide to go to the next chapter? They get maybe too comfortable.
They get too comfortable, number one. And a lot of times what happens is we are so comfortable with the salaries we have, the house we have, and everything around us being so settled that we forget we have to keep growing. For me, growth is a very important part of my journey. And I have to keep growing in some form or shape. And if I'm not growing, I ask myself, why am I not growing? Why am I not excited about growth in this particular thing that I'm doing? Sometimes it's the environment, sometimes it's the people, sometimes it's the things around me that is stopping me. And when in 2016, I said, I really found this is what I am about. What I really mean is this. And I found this reinforced when I did the Gallup Strengths Test. And when you do the Gallup Strengths Test, you identify what are your top 5 and top 10 strengths, right? And I realized I was hitting every note on those strengths tests in my top 10. It's like for most people, you hit 3 or 4 or 5 and you feel good, but not completely aligned with yourself. You hit 5 or 6, you're like amazing. you hit all 10, you're like freaking awesome. But if you hit one or two, you feel like it is a good day, it's good, it's nice, but there's so much more I could be offering. There's so much more I could be doing. And sometimes what happens is there are external forces that stops you from doing certain things. Let me give you an example. My number two strength, for example, is ideation, coming up with ideas. If I was in a job, and I was in this job where in the second, the one before coaching, right? Initially, when I walked into the job, I was allowed a lot of creativity. But once I settled down, it was restricted. There were rules you had to follow, and your creativity does not make an impact, and there are restrictions around because of things. So what happens is something is coming in my way of using my strength. And when something's coming in my way of strength, I feel depleted. I feel I'm not able to express myself completely. So if anyone out there listening over here is thinking why you're feeling depleted in your job, it's probably because there is some skill that is there naturally within you that you're not able to exercise. Because of your environment or your conditions or your relations or your people or someone out there who is stopping you from doing the things that comes naturally to you. Like, for example, you love editing, you love making movies, and it's not the movie is just a way of doing it, but there's something behind the creative process which you enjoy so much. The meeting of people and coming up with new ideas and putting them together, these are the elements that actually brings you joy. And if someone told you, no, you sit in the office and we will tell you exactly what to edit and how you should bring it out, it will frustrate the hell out of you. Because you'll be just another puppet who is pushing buttons for somebody else. So, yeah. So when I ticked all the boxes, and I didn't know I was ticking all the boxes, but when I discovered coaching, it was like, can somebody get paid to be doing this thing? When you find that you can live a life of joy and make a living out of it, it is insanely amazing. Imagine you love making jokes and then you become successful as a comedian. You love running and then you become an athletic coach. Imagine you love playing the guitar. You don't become a top guitarist, maybe you become a guitar teacher. Imagine the joy of that. But people think, I can't make a profession out of this. This is something that I love on the side. I can't make a living out of this. I have to do the regular 9 to 5 job for that. And on the side, I'll do this just to keep me happy. What I say is this: when you can look forward to your weekends as much as you can look forward to your weekdays, it means you have touched upon something beautiful.
Great. Well, I mean, I'd love to know who's listening, who can confidently say that, because, I mean, luckily I did find my calling as well in early life. So, I mean, to be honest, a weekend, weekday, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. I mean, I'm always working, but there's no work-life balance with me anyway. It's either I'm always on, but I mean, if you love it, like you said, it doesn't matter. But I mean, yeah, I'd love to know. I mean, people watching, please share your experiences. If you love what you do, please tell us. But yeah, that's a really good trick. I mean, you talked about a Gallup strength test. How do we go about, is there something online that we can do? Or is there an exercise you recommend? Or is it just doing the Gallup strengths test? How do you uncover your strengths? How do you work these out?
So when you go to the Clifton's Gallup strengths test and you search on it online, you will actually find a test for $50 and another test for $20. The $20 will give you your top 5 strengths, but I really recommend everyone to take the $50 test, because the Gallup test is like identifying your DNA. It's who you are. Scientifically, you're getting to know who you are. And the thing is, who we are remains in our blind spot. We take things for granted of how we are naturally. We don't even realize certain things are our strengths because it comes to us so effortlessly. And the things that comes to us effortlessly, we believe everyone should be doing it. Right?
Yeah.
So, for example, I love communication and I love ideas, and positivity is one of my strengths. Being positive is who I am in my Gallup's test and in my top 5. Now, that's not a natural way of being for most people. Me understanding that is giving me a whole new perspective of looking at people. So what I would recommend is people to take the Gallup test, but that is only the first step. The next step is to actually get coached around the report. And if you don't get coached around the report, the journey is incomplete.
Yeah.
Because you do not yet know how to leverage on the report. Now, I do coaching for people once they do the Gallup test, and it actually changes the entire perspective of their life. For me, life is before and after Gallup. In so many ways, it just aligns for me on how I view life and the decisions that I've taken. I've told you about this, right? I realized there are certain things that I'm really not good at, great at. Immediately, I started negating it after that. After Gallups, I realized I have to surround myself with people who are great at the remaining strengths that I don't possess, instead of me working on. So there are strengths, there are things that you're not good at. Now, the strengths, if I work on them, I can take them here. If I work on my weaknesses, things that I'm not good at, I'll bring them here. And I just become
You're
average.
basically just doubling up on what you're good at. It's just like focusing money on the product that makes more. It's the same sort of process, isn't it?
Yeah, you just amplify on what you're really good at, you become great at it.
We just had an interesting question popping up from Etna Trenner. She said, but Samir, talk to us about how everyone wants to be multi-skilled these days. Surely the strength test says focus on what you are best at, which I guess is just what you've just mentioned. I mean, it's all about leveraging, I guess, your network, isn't it? And the skills of others. I mean, you don't have to be good at everything. You just focus, you double down on just what you're really, really strong in. And then I guess, do you lean on others to do the rest? What would you recommend there?
I would rather become great at something rather than be average at so many things.
Right. Well, this saying, jack of all trades, master of none, right?
Yeah. But if you have the opportunity to become master of so many, everyone has 24 hours and you have to juggle everything within those 24 hours, right? So if you are playing a guitar and you want to become an expert at it, and if you are, let's say, a computer coder and you want to become an expert at it, you cannot spend equal amount of time. You spend X amount over here on the guitar, and every minute you spend away on coding, you're taking away time from becoming better at guitar.
Yeah. Well, this is just learning how to leverage time. I mean, there's an awesome book I can recommend. It's by Rob Moore. It's called Life Leverage. And I was talking about that. I was talking about this today with Seb. We both read it. And it's amazing. It puts a lot of things in perspective. It encourages you to put a value to your hour, your day rate. So like, let's just say a cameraman, not myself, but let's just say a cameraman, which I know is a going rate of like 3,000 dirhams a day. I mean, that's got a value depending on the amount of hours he works in that day. And if you can outsource tasks for cheaper than your hourly rate, then it's something you should do, because it's the only thing that we have that we can't get back. It's the most valuable commodity. If we can afford to respect time, sure, it's done wisely, and then it's channeling, like you said, the strengths that we're good at. It's the best way to be efficient, isn't it?
Absolutely. But let me add something over here. There are certain things that you'll do for different reasons. Like, for example, solving a jigsaw puzzle. Now, it's for sure cheaper to get somebody to solve the puzzle for you.
Yeah.
If you compare your hourly rate, it's not going to have any impact on solving the jigsaw puzzle. But what the jigsaw puzzle does by solving it is it exercises your mind and allows you to focus and build a different muscle over there.
Yeah.
So what it really means is this: whatever you choose for yourself in life, it's not about being multi-skilled. It's about asking yourself, what is your journey really about? Where is it that you're really heading, and what are the skills that you're looking to build upon? And that's the space that you should make your choices from. If you're really concerned about pleasing the outer world and not pleasing your inner self, you're losing the plot. This is what I feel. And a lot of people, they set their goals always trying to please outside, the world outside, your parents, your family, your kids, the newspapers, the magazines. You do everything so that you get external validation. But the moment you forget that and ask yourself, if I am looking to be in tune with myself and authentic and listen to my inner self, inner voice, then the choices that you make are completely different. And from that space, you start living an authentic life.
Very true. Great advice. Samir, I'm going to link you back to the topic of tonight. Questions are the answers. It's an unusual it's a usual headline. Explain. Questions are the answers. What does that mean?
So this is something that I started recently, actually. So 2016 is when I got into coaching. And I just knew naturally, instinctively, that this is what I want to be doing. I didn't have logic. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have guidance. I had nothing. I had an intuition and a gut feeling. This is who I am. I don't need anyone else to tell me what to do. So even without getting a certificate, I landed in Dubai and I said, friends, this is what I'm doing. My friend who used to always connect with me said, you got to come to my office and start working with my team. So day 2, after landing over here, I had a job. I started working in his organization with his team and all that stuff. And then a couple of months down the line, I was actually engaging with people and I realized if someone could hear these conversations, they could really take away something. And that's when what I did was I bought in a space and filled it with bean bags. And I said, let's have conversations. People asked, what are you going to talk about? I said, I'm not going to talk about anything. Just come over. And in that space I created where I started asking questions. My journey started evolving over there where I became a host, just like you, and I was asking questions. And people would share their answers, and we would have an engaging conversation. And people would always walk up to me and say, Samir, your questions are amazing. And I'm like, how can questions be amazing? I mean, questions are questions. I'm just having a conversation. What is so amazing about asking a question? Anyone can ask a question, right? But they're like, no. The space and the way that you ask questions are really, it brings out from people great stories. So when too many people started saying this, I started realizing there's got to be some truth in it. There's got to be some value in what they're saying. And then I started engaging with a lot of people. I did about 160 interviews at Awesome Walkers, I used to call that. And then recently I started something called Turning Point. At Turning Point, what I do is I tell people, I'm here not to give you advices. Turning Point is a event that I host every single day now. Today was the day 33. Every single day where people can come in and share what they're struggling with in life. They could be sharing a challenge. They could be sharing a scenario. They could be sharing some place that they are feeling, like a dead end. And what I tell them is, I'm not going to give you advice. I'm not going to give you any answers. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life or what you have to do. Because nobody should tell you what to do. No one should tell anyone what to do with their lives. Because everyone knows what to do with their lives. Because everyone has all the resources within them to identify what is the right thing. It's a God-given gift. We have that orientation. All I give them is questions. And through those questions, amazing answers come up and they leave the conversation with insights like never before. And I tell them questions are really the answers, because if you start answering the right questions, maybe it is coming from outside, maybe it is coming from inside within you. But the questions will make us think, and our thinking will give us answers, and it will give insights, and it will lead us to make the right choices. Very often what we do is we seek answers from outside, and then we pin the blame. He told me that, or she told me that, and that's why I did it, and therefore I'm not to blame. But in that space, what happens is you lose being your authentic self. You lose being you. And what do I mean by being you is this. We all carry so much of experience in our lives, so much of incidents in our lives, so much of data points, I call it, which is residing within us, called knowledge, within the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. When these get interlinked, because of the questions I ask, the light bulb gets on. And in that moment, they realize the choice that they have to make and what they have to do, which is right for them.
I want to know an example of one of these questions. I'm very curious.
So today I had. So I'll give you a couple of questions. There are quite a few which actually stands out in this turning points where I have it. There is this one lady who asked about she has a kid. Okay, she had two kids. This is how she introduced. She started off the conversation saying, "I have two kids. One is normal and the other one is autistic."
Right. Okay.
And the first question to her was this. So what you're saying without saying is, your one kid is normal and the other kid is abnormal.
Mm.
Said, yes, that's how the world sees it. Then I asked her, how do you see it? I said, no, my son is special. He's great. He's amazing. I asked her, why do you say that then? Why do you say one kid is normal? And then the whole conversation, then she emerged through the conversation saying that there's nothing wrong with my kid. It's only my perception, she revealed after the conversation, that how I was viewing him that had to be altered.
Yeah.
And she left the conversation with a complete insight where she said, I'm not going to stop him from doing anything in life because I've stopped him for far too long. Today in the afternoon, there was another conversation. A lady who came up and she said, I have 2, 3 people in my life who left my school and they're going around and complaining about our school. And I asked her how many people are speaking good about your school. And she said there are more than 200 people speaking good about the school. And how many are speaking bad about the school? There are 3. I asked her what is making her listen to the 3 versus the 200 voice. So we just, by those questions, what happens is you just start shifting and thinking at a different perspective. And you start seeing the situation from a whole new viewpoint.
Mm.
And it's just like the blind elephant, right? Like the blind men around the elephant. You're just seeing one side of the story. And by asking questions and by having someone who asks thoughtful questions and curious questions, not judgmental questions, not questions that actually ridicules you, but coming from a space of abundance and coming from a space of love and coming from a space of truly being inquisitive, helps you look at that scenario from different angles. And in that, you create an opportunity to see the perspective in a wholesome manner. And then something lights up for you. So we always end the conversation, these ones where they eventually come up with answers and say, I know what to do next. Today there was another gentleman who was talking about how he's been married for 40 years. He's been married for 40 years with his wife and they hardly speak. And he was like, how do I deal with it? And I asked him, what is the problem? He says, when they go to the market to buy tomatoes, for instance, he says, buy 1 kilo and she says, buy 2 kilos.
Okay.
Things as simple as that, but it destroys sometimes relationships. It destroys how you perceive things, and therefore it impacts the quality of your life.
Mm.
When I say questions are the answers, I also mean not only the questions that others ask you, but also the ones that you ask yourself. And how you answer them, and what is the space that you come from when you answer them.
Is there an exercise you can recommend people do at home with this? Or would you recommend just go to Turning Point?
I would recommend people to join at Turning Point because it's a free session every day from, so we start off where 4:30 to 4:50, we have open networking, 4:50 to 5, I play a video of the day, which is something unique I just take out from YouTube. 5 to 6, we have the session itself, where sometimes it is one person, sometimes it is 2, sometimes it is 3. There's this lady who had come in who was sharing about, she, I think, had brain tumor, I think, a couple of years back or a year back or so.
Yeah.
And she was saying, and she was completely in a lost space. And through the conversation, she identified, and she was clueless. What is her goal in life? What does she have to do next? At the end of the conversation, she decided, and her goal is now to inspire and work with 1 million orphan kids. And that's the number she's put for herself. It's not something that I or anyone has told her.
Yeah. Wow, very inspirational. We've just had an interesting question pop up. I'm not sure it's the one, but Samir, how can you cure a wounded mind through the eye of your questioning? If you don't mind, can you just give a short demo? So how would that apply?
I could give a demo, but the thing is,
You have to go quite deep, I guess, don't you?
it has to be a deep conversation, number one, and it has to be with the person, and it has to be with a wounded mind. It cannot be hypothetical, right? It cannot be. So when someone tells me I have an uncle or an aunt, I say you can't change anyone. Change happens within over here inside, and the change happens when those questions are asked, and when someone triggers those questions, where you actually access the subconscious mind of yours, from where the wound is still persisting. A wound can be healed within the mind only if you touch upon it and you address it.
Yeah, just like a real wound.
Pardon?
I said just like a real wound. You can't just neglect it.
Yes.
It's carrying attention.
And you can't do it from far. You can't do it without having a conversation with that particular mind. And this is my opinion, that you have to actually be engaged with that person and allow that person to access it. And when I say access, this is the thing. How do you know you're accessing the subconscious mind, for instance? Do you have an answer?
I don't know. I mean, how do you access this subconscious mind? I have no idea. I mean, there's things I know, like, you know, there's subliminal things like subliminal messaging, you know, spontaneous asking, like, you know, those charts that you get given and you say the first word that comes to mind, that sort of stuff. Is that what you mean?
What would define for you a good question versus a great question?
Go on.
You see exactly your response right now. If you're able to give an answer right away, it is from your conscious. Right. If you're not able to give and you dig deeper, right now what you did is you didn't even attempt. You said, go on, you give it, which means you resisted going within yourself to pick an answer.
Right.
And that is how most people operate.
Right.
They resist going inside and finding their own answers, and they look for external answers. So if you really want to tap into yourself, then you dig a little deeper when you don't know the answer. So the quality of a good question is this: when the person sitting in front of you has to think a little more to answer the question, which means they are accessing something from within.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it is already in their awareness, it is in their conscious state, and therefore it is not really deep. The answer is not yet deep. It is not touching every experience that they have, or most experience that they have, for them to access the information.
I see. Someone's just asked if we can question ourselves. Is that something we could do, or is that something that only can be done by a third person?
Oh, we can question ourselves, right? We can always question ourselves. The quality of a question depends on how much we meditate on that question.
With this, I guess, circles back to what we were saying at the beginning. You've got to almost question what you do on a weekly basis. Like you said, if you love what you do, then that's a good little question, saying, do you love what you do? You're asking that self every few months, because it can change. I know a lot of people have changed what they do in the last few months. You know, it starts with that. It starts with that, right?
So when people ask me, Samir, are you going to be a coach for the rest of your life? I say, I don't know. I love it right now.
Exactly.
And people imagine that if you have picked what you love, you should stick to it. And I'm like, we evolve as human beings. We have new experiences all the time. And it shapes us in profound ways. And it teaches us and it makes us grow. So I have this equation that I made a long time back when I was in Toastmasters and I was supposed to give my speech. And I made the speech where I created this formula called I is equal to B plus E plus P, where I is every individual is equal to B is all the books they have read, E is all the experiences they have had, and P is all the people they have met. So B could be books, it could be movies, it could be any content that is being created by someone that you're consuming.
Yeah.
E is every experience that you have gone through, and P is all the people that you have met. What happens is, as you go through life, all these three things, this is a dynamic equation. You're constantly adding books, experience, and people into your life. Are we choosing the right kind of experiences, the right kind of people, and the right kind of content to consume? Because that's what shapes us. And if we have become mindful that everything that we consume consumes us and becomes us and makes us and evolves us into something new and beautiful later on, then we'll be very mindful about what we consume. And as a result, what happens is you will transform, you will change, you will do new things sometimes because you are growing. The question to ask is this: in the last couple of months, you said a few people have changed what they have been doing. Have they chosen things because of opportunities, or because that's what they love to do, or because they tapped into something that is the core of who they are?
I think the reason why, and again, everyone's different. I think it's because the crisis and the pandemic, it's giving people perspective. It's like you said, everything's perspective. So if you can, some people have maybe lost their jobs, or the money that maybe tied them to the job has been affected, and it allows them to question if they love what they do. I mean, so many members of our team have stuck through us through tough times, and it's just highlighted how much they love what they do in our job, and I'm touched by that. And I guess it goes for everyone, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an employee. If you love what you do, it doesn't matter how hard things get. I mean, this has been a really good, part of my French here, but shit test for what you do. Like, what makes you, like, what do you choose to spend 9 to 5 each working day doing? And I think if you've worked as hard, or if not harder, during this lockdown, then that shows immense character, and the fact that you've chosen well in what you do is a huge testament to it. Not to mention if you enjoy it, because I've mentioned this quote before, but I had a quote from a friend the other day called "Same storm, different boat." I mean, we're all in the same storm at the minute, and some boats are more weathered than others, but the storm's the same. So for me, I think that's, like I said, it's a huge. I mean, if people have adjusted because maybe that's become apparent of what they're doing isn't really important enough.
So let me share. I was having this coaching conversation with a client of mine who's an entrepreneur, and he just in the last 1 week he took up a new retail space to open up, a huge space. He said it's going to be his life-changing moment over here right now during this lockdown, that he's taken up this space and he's going to open this huge retail space, and he's going to hire people. And I asked him, what kind of people are you looking to hire? So he said he's looking to hire people who are experienced in procurement, for instance. And asked him, in your field, when you're hiring, what are you looking for? Are you looking for experience? He said, yes. I said, if that is the case, then the number of people who are out there with this particular skill set is very limited. He said, you're right. I said, what should you be really looking for? And in the conversation, what we co-created and discovered was, it's not really experience, it's really skill. And if a person is skillful, they can fit into any similar role.
True. Well, it's like your communication skills. You were hired because of that.
So no matter what the lockdown has brought upon people, if you're looking to work upon your skill and improve upon the skill and choose whatever you're doing to enhance that skill, you will grow. You will find the place. You might not have the experience, you might have lost a job, but are you continued persisting on building on that skill is what each and every one of us should be asking ourselves. And if you're focused on growth, if you're focused on building skills, it cannot deplete our energy. What depletes our energy is lack of something.
Yeah.
You don't have money, you don't have something, you don't have a job. Those are the things that depletes your energy. And if that is what is consuming your mind, your energy will be down. But if you're focused on skill building, and if that is what is consuming you, you will be in a state of high energy. And when you're in a state of high energy, no matter what recession, people are looking for people in a state of high energy. You will attract and you will find what you are seeking because it will start seeking you.
Amazing. So true. Amazing advice. Just had a nice question here from Sab. What are the most common objections you hear from people who are hesitant to pursue their dream jobs and opportunities? Great question. What advice would you give them? What are the common objections? You must hear this a lot. What are the common ones?
The most common one is they're too scared. They're too scared to leave what they have to pursue what they want.
Okay.
They hate their job. They hate it. There are a lot of people who hate their present job. They hate their boss. They hate their colleagues. They hate their office environment. But they are scared because it's a recession. It's a time where nobody's hiring. And if I leave this and if I go pursue something else, what if nobody hires me? What if I don't succeed? What if I don't make enough money? The fear consumes not the opportunity of growth, not the opportunity of living a beautiful life.
But what is fear? Fear is just the worry of something that hasn't happened yet, is it? You know, and again, it's all perception. I did a podcast earlier today with Seb, and he was telling me about his time when he had to close all down his martial arts classes, and he was worried about business, and he did a really useful exercise of writing down his fear with everything, like the worst case and each problem, and then identifying how a solution could be applied to it. And it was such a huge weight lifted when he did that exercise. Very useful tip. I found, and I guess if you do that, it kind of puts logic to it, because fear is an emotion, isn't it? And it's something that isn't really rational and shouldn't really be there, I think, present, especially when it comes to business. So yeah, it's amazing how much it also affects the mindset, doesn't it, and the decisions you make.
So to answer this particular question, I would give them one advice.
Yep.
And the advice would be this: write down, if any one of you over there have objections in your mind for anything that you want to do in life. So you want to do it, but there is an objection. Write down the objections. Not keep it in your head. Writing is a very important part of the process.
Yep.
On paper, because the moment you take it out, you're able to deal with it. Once you write it down, then the next thing that I'm going to say, they can quote me and they can actually use it and remember it for the rest of their life. That is this: convert every problem into a project with a deadline.
Okay. Project with a deadline. Like it.
Right? So every problem that you have, the moment you identify it, and then you say, how do I resolve it? What do I have to do? What is missing over here? And if you're asking those questions, you'll find the answers.
Really great.
Is people don't ask those questions. What they do is they sit in the fear side of the question, fear side of the paper, and don't go to the question side of the paper and ask the questions of what do I have to do to remove the uncertainty.
Great. Project with a deadline. I'm going to try that. I'll hold you to it. I'm going to hold you to that.
Every problem into a project. Convert every problem into a project. Project with a deadline. Yeah.
It makes it sound easier to do as well. We all like projects.
Yeah.
Got another interesting question here. How do we measure the gap of expectations versus reality? That's one of the biggest challenges I face when I started taking actions. So yeah, quite a tough one. I mean, I guess a lot of us have attempted to try and pivot, I guess, online. And I know that's been a big tricky one for a lot of businesses that I speak to. So how do you measure the gap? How do we measure the gap of expectations versus reality? Samir, what would you say to this?
Let me share this. And I love this question. I love this question because of this. There should always be a gap between your expectations and reality.
Okay.
Always be a gap between your expectations and reality. And the gap is defined by the word goal. Your
Okay.
goal is aspiring towards something bigger and higher constantly. If you don't have, so there's this beautiful Oscar-winning speech by Matthew McConaughey, I think, and where he speaks about who his hero is, and his hero is himself 10 years from today,
Okay.
and his hero 10 years from today, and he's always moving towards that guy 10 years from today. And if we all are walking and moving towards ourselves, who we want to be 10 years from today, and we can visualize it and crystallize it, we will never get there. We will never get there. But we are always walking towards that.
Mm. Yeah, I guess it's like fashion. It's never finished. You don't obtain a goal and then go, that's it, I'm done. Life
Nobody does.
done.
Nobody
It
does
is
that.
always going, isn't it? There's always something. The grass is always greener. But I guess it's that's when you get caught into the problem. I think a lot of people do face and realize in later life is that it's learning to enjoy the process, isn't it? It's not about necessarily the goal or the thing that you're trying to achieve. It's enjoying every single part of it and being, I guess, humble along the way, because we don't know how long all of us have got, and like you said, if you're always aiming forward, how do you get time to enjoy and appreciate and absorb what you're doing now? I guess, you know what I mean?
What you're saying is very profound over here, and I'll just add one thing to it because I want to connect something that I said earlier over here today.
Mm.
In the process, if you're enjoying the process, you will do it more when you are able to articulate and tell to yourself what is the skill you're building, what is it that you're getting better at every single day.
Yeah.
For me, it is conversation. As simple as that. I just want to get better at conversation.
Mm.
And it was a profound realization for me that how passionate I am about conversation. And I want to get better and better at it. Which means, for example, when I say questions are the answers, what would be my measure of being better at conversations would be if I take 30 minutes for somebody to make a realization but through my questions, I want to do it in 10 or 5 or maybe with one question. Then I'll be like Buddha, one question, spot on, boom, and then they actually find their answer. I'm not there yet, but that's
Mm.
where I want to get to. I want to get to a point where I can ask one question and they find their answer. I'm not there.
You say earlier that writing is a very important part of the process. And I feel it's only appropriate to mention something awesome that you created, which you showed me not so long ago. It's called the Awesome Planner.
Yep.
Tell us a bit about this Awesome Planner, because I think it's going to be a shame if I don't bring this up today.
Awesome Planner is a planner that I created which is to help people set goals in their life. Uh, it was a very passion project that I had where I realized how people don't put things on paper and don't actually articulate what they really want out of life. And the mistake is then bringing things out and putting it on paper. You put it on digital, perhaps it might work for a lot of people. But at the same time, science has proven that writing triggers something within your brain that actually activates you to take action. The fact that
Interesting.
right now is also triggering something within you.
Mm.
So Awesome Planner is a planner where it's like unlike any other planner out there in the market so far. I've not seen anything like it. It actually takes you through the process of identifying your goals, identifying your vision, like having a 5-year goal, breaking it down to 1 year, breaking it down to 100 days, breaking it down to weekly goals, then breaking it down to daily habits, and measuring that, and having an accountability planner that you can give to somebody else who can actually track you and help you go on this journey. One of the things that people struggle the most with in goal setting is they do not have someone holding them accountable to their goals. And the fact is, we are all easy to let down one person in our lives, and that is ourselves.
Yeah.
We commit
Very
to
true.
getting up in the morning and doing a job. If you have not told anyone, it's okay to sleep in. The moment you commit to the world or commit to 5 or 10 people and say, let's go for a jog together, and then they call you and you're sleeping, you feel guilty.
Yeah, true. That is true. That's great advice.
So accountability is key. How do you put accountability structure into your goals? The moment you put an accountability structure into your goals, the chances of you achieving whatever you want, no matter what it is, it just amplifies and escalates.
It's like that amazing speech, from that, I think it's Marine in the US, and he talks about if you want to change the world, it starts by making your bed.
Yep.
That is so true. The daily habits, I think we all slip up from time to time to doing that. But I mean, for me, I'll be honest. I went through those like peaks and troughs in COVID where I was like sitting around in my pajamas all day, not being productive, and then as soon as I started applying these habits of getting up early, exercising, making my bed, it just made the day much more productive. It was amazing how the little habits get you in that mindset for the day. So yeah, no, that's very true. I guess that's an amazing way to kind of like wrap up this chat. I mean, what gets measured gets done. I mean, you'll have to tell us, will you be able to share us a link in the comments box with the Awesome Planner link and the Turning Point meeting? I think everyone watching would love to attend that. So would you be kind enough to do that after the chat?
Yeah, I can do that.
No problem. Awesome.
So,
well, Samir, I mean,
yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. I really, really appreciate you giving us so much value and of your time. Hope you enjoyed it. How else can people get in touch with you? What's the best way to keep in touch with yourself?
So the best way to join my WhatsApp chat group where I update everything that is happening in my life, whether it is turning awesome workers, whether it is the book that is going to be released. Awesome Cup is a book that is going to be coming out probably in a week's time. So all my updates and everything, either they can connect with me on LinkedIn or the WhatsApp group. I'll put the link on the WhatsApp group over here. How to join.
Amazing. Well, Samir, thank you so much once again. And it's been amazing having you in the group. And I look forward to interview you again in the near future. You have a great evening.
Thank you, mate. Thank you so much. You've been a wonderful host.